Welcome. So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about the unitary method. And the best way to explore what the unitary method is all about is by going through a question. And here's the question. 2 kilos of potatoes cost $10. What is the cost of 8 kilos of potatoes? So let's take this slowly. We're told that 2 kilos of potatoes cost $10. So let's write that down. 2 kilos correspond to $10. The unitary method is going to tell us that what we should do in this instance is find the unit cost of it. So the cost of 1 unit. So in this example, we're going to be finding what is 1 kilo worth. So that means we're going from 2 kilos to 1 kilo. What operation are we applying to go from 2 to 1? We are dividing by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. And remember, whatever you do to the left-hand side, you must do to the right-hand side. 10 divided by 2 will be 5. So what this tells us is that 1 kilo of potatoes cost $5. So we have found the unit cost of it. 1 unit costs $5. And in this case, a unit is kilos. Now, if we want to find out how much 8 kilos costs, what we're going to do is go from 1 to 8. Now, what operation are we going to apply here? We're going to times by 8. And whatever we do to the left-hand side, we must do to the right-hand side. 5 times 8 is 40. So 8 kilos is going to cost $40. That is how we applied the unitary method. We found 1 unit, and that's, as you can see in the title, the unitary method, you got the word unit there. It's all about finding 1 unit, 1 part. You're going to hear that word as well. 1 unit, 1 part, same thing, different terminology. So let's just quickly run through a definition here. It says that the unitary method is a technique for solving a problem by first finding the value of a single unit or part, and then finding the necessary value by multiplying the single unit part value. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now, the questions that you're going to face are going to look something like this. So let's walk through how you would answer this. It says divide $10 in a ratio of 2 to 3. So how are we going to answer this? Step 1. We're going to ask ourselves, how many parts are there in total? Well, we have 2 parts to 3 parts. So how many parts are there in total? Well, to answer that, you'd go 2 plus 3. So you're taking both of these, you're adding them together, and we're going to get 5. So there are 5 parts in total. So this means there are 5 parts in total. So if we were to visualize this, you could think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. And those 5 parts are going to equal our total value here, which is $10. So we have 5 parts that equal $10. The second thing that we're going to do, so our second step, is find out how much is 1 part worth. How much is 1 part worth? Well, if I have 5 parts and that's equal to $10, what I'm going to do is go 10 divided by 5, and that's going to be equal to $2. So this means 1 part is equal to $2. And we can again visualize this. Let's assign each of these as being $2. And this makes sense. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 will be $10. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to break the parts up into the ratio. So remember, our ratio is 2 parts to 3 parts. So that means I'm going to take 2 of my parts and put it over here. Then I'm going to put my colon, and then I'm going to put my 3 parts to the other side. So I have 2 parts to 3 parts. Now, the final thing I have to do is actually give my answer, and hopefully you can see my answer will be 4 to 6, because 2 plus 2 is 4, and 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. And that right there is my answer. So let's just recap what I did there. I first calculated how many parts are there in total. I then found out how much 1 part was, and then I broke up the parts into the ratio. So my final answer is 4 to 6, so $4 to $6. Now, how can we check our answer? There's an actual way that we can check our answer here. So let's just kind of zoom in here. The first way you can check your answer is making sure that you've created an equivalent ratio. So what do I mean by that? Well, here I have 2 to 3, and here I have 4 to 6, and hopefully you can tell that these are equivalent ratios. I've simply multiplied both sides by 2. So that's your first verification that you've done this correctly. The other way that you can verify that you've done this correctly is you can take your new ratio, you can add the parts together, and when you add them together, you should end up with the total amount you started with. So in this case, 4 plus 6 is equal 210. So the numbers sum to the total. So there are two checks that you can use to make sure that you're using the unitary method correctly. Perfect. Let's now go through a different example. We're going to work through the same 3 steps. It says divide $45 in a ratio of 2 to 3. So this ratio is the same, but now we have $45. So let's begin with step 1. Step 1 tells us how many parts are there in total. Well, I have 2 parts to 3 parts. So I'm going to go 2 plus 3 is 5. This means there are 5 parts in total. I can represent this visually. Obviously, when you're doing these questions by hand, you wouldn't do this, but just for an explanation, it helps. We know that these 5 parts are going to be equal to $45 because that's what we're told. The next thing that we're going to do is find out how much is 1 part. Well, if I have 5 parts equaling to $45, I'm going to go $45 divided by 5 will be $9. So that means 1 part is equal to $9. So now I can come here and I can assign each of these as being $9. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to break the parts up into the ratio. So I know it's 2 parts to 3 parts. So let's put 2 parts here. Let's put a colon and let's put 3 parts on the other side. So that means what my answer is going to be is 18 to 27 because 9 plus 9 is 18 and 9 plus 9 plus 9 is 27. So that is going to be our answer, 18 to 27. So $18 to $27. We've split up the ratio. We've split up $45 in the ratio of 2 to 3. Let's now do our checks to make sure that we have used the unitary method correctly. The first thing that we're going to see is if these are equivalent ratios, and sure enough, they are. I've simply multiplied both sides by 9, so they are equivalent ratios. The next thing that we can do is we can add together the numbers of our new ratio, and it should be equal to the number we started with up here. And sure enough, 18 plus 27 is 45. So we've done it correctly. We have checked, we have verified that we've used the unitary method correctly. Hopefully this has been a helpful video in explaining what the unitary method is and just visualizing it. In the next parts of this video, I'll be going through how to do this by hand. So I hope you join me then.